It happened one night when I was returning from work. I always walked the same route, through the parking lot, the narrow path between the old houses and to my entrance. It was quiet, the night was no different from the previous ones. But halfway home I felt it. I don't know how to explain it. At first it seemed like just fatigue. It's like someone is watching your back when you're alone. Do you know that feeling? I stopped. There is no one on the street at night. Only the weak light of the lantern illuminated a few meters of the road ahead. Silence. But I couldn't shake that feeling. At first I tried to ignore it. He just walked on, but the steps seemed heavy as if something was pulling him down under his feet. Then I heard a sound, quiet, almost imperceptible, like a light tapping. I stopped again, quickly turned around, but did not see anyone. The heart pounded in his chest. Maybe it's just the wind or some bird. But something in my head told me it wasn't. The next day I felt like I was on pins and needles. All day I thought about that sound and this strange feeling. Maybe someone is playing with me? When I got home late at night, I felt the same chill down my back again. As if someone is watching from around the corner, waiting. And again these steps. This time they became clearer. I could distinctly hear them behind me. He turned around, no one. The road is empty as always. But I knew it wasn't my imagination. I started walking faster. And then I noticed it. A silhouette in the dark, a few meters behind me. Maybe just a person going his own way? I stopped and he stopped too. My blood froze in my veins. This is not a random passerby. He follows me, I feel it. The next day I decided to test my suspicions. Left the house early in the daylight. But when it got dark I had to go back the same way. I heard that sound again. My pursuer was there, behind me. I made several attempts to escape, changed routes, but nothing helped. He knew my every step. One day I even decided to stay at a friend's place for the night. But even there this feeling did not leave me. Everything is only getting worse. In the morning, returning home after spending the night at a friend's, I found a note under the door. It was something new. Only 2 words were written on it. I know. Damn it, but what does he know? I never did anything to anyone, had no enemies, lived an ordinary life. But now someone was definitely obsessed with me. I began to close all the doors, check the windows, but I could not get rid of the thought that this person was somewhere very close. It's like he knows my every move. A few days later, everything went even further. I found an envelope under the door again. Inside was a photograph. My photo. It was made very recently, maybe last week. Someone was following me even when I thought I was alone. Now I can't take it anymore. He's not just watching, he's enjoying my fear. Every day the situation became more unbearable. Now I knew for sure that my stalker was not just someone random. He was playing a game with me. When I was very close to losing control, I decided to take the last step, to start my hunt for him. I decided to follow in his footsteps. He went outside, began to move along the same road he had walked before. And as always he appeared. But this time I didn't stop, I didn't look around. I walked quickly, trying to behave as usual. But at one point I turned sharply and hid around the corner. I heard footsteps stop behind me. And for the first time I saw his face. He was an ordinary man, but there was something inhuman in his eyes. I looked into his eyes and I felt how cold penetrated every cell of my body. He stood there silently, looking at me as if he was waiting for my next move. I couldn't stand it and ran. When I turned around a few seconds later, he was gone. I could no longer ignore the situation. The next morning, after barely being able to sleep, I decided to go to the police. But deep down I knew it was useless. What will I tell them? What is the unknown chasing me? That he leaves notes and photos? And what next? They were going to check the cameras, but I already knew that he would not appear on any of them. However, I decided to act. Before walking into the police station, I felt that look on me again. The window of the coffee shop is opposite. Behind the glass like a ghost he sat. His gaze pierced me through and through, and an almost impassive smile appeared on his face. I took a step back. Police? No, they won't help. He knew I was here. He is always ahead. That evening I returned home again, but now the feeling was different. All day I was haunted by the thought that the pursuer wanted me to find him. That I do exactly what he wants. When I walked up to my apartment door, there was another note on the floor. You made the right choice by staying in the shadows. My heart froze. He knew I was going to the police, but I didn't. How could he know that? Maybe he watches me day and night? Or maybe he got into my mind. This only increased my fear. The next day I got a call. The number was unknown, but when I answered, I heard nothing but silence. Somehow I knew it was him. I waited, but no one spoke. Just breathing, barely audible but strong enough to give me goosebumps. I felt that I had very little time left. I had to act, but what to do when the stalker is always one step ahead? I hardly slept at night. Something did not allow me to calm down, so I began to walk around the apartment. Every corner was inspected, every door checked for a lock. But one day I heard a faint sound outside the window. At first it seemed like just the sound of the wind, but when I got closer my heart stopped. There was a note on my windowsill. I was here. He made his way to me. But how? Everything is locked, no traces. Maybe he left her earlier? I was so exhausted that I might not have noticed. But it didn't matter anymore. He was in my house. Every day things got even weirder. At first little things disappeared, keys, phone. Then I noticed that some things in the apartment were being moved. The books on the table were not as I had left them, the cup of coffee I had left on the windowsill was gone. I decided not to return home. But wherever I went this feeling followed me. As if he is always somewhere nearby. I changed my address, moved to a new place. But even there I found a note. This is not an escape. I didn't know what to do anymore. Who is he? What does he need? I could not even imagine what he was capable of, but I felt that the time for my salvation was running out. My new home was safe. I checked every corner, door and window. But one day, passing by the bathroom mirror, I noticed an inscription on it that had not been seen before. You looked into my eyes. Again this cold sweat, again fear. He was here before and I didn't notice anything. Each time he leaves me clues that only confuse me more. I began to lose touch with reality. The feeling that every sound, every shadow was him became unbearable. I could no longer trust my thoughts. What if I'm crazy? What if it's all just in my head? But then the call. The same quiet as before. And now the voice. You will soon learn the truth. Now I'm afraid to even be alone. But staying with someone else is even worse. I don't want to drag other people into it. This stalker has a special effect on me, it's like he's playing with me. And here is a new note. Appeared on my desktop although I locked the office. Last warning, stop. What does this mean? Stop at what? I didn't do anything, I just lived. But now I felt like my every move was being watched. It seemed that I had reached the point of insanity. One evening on my way home, I noticed tracks in the mud leading to my driveway. They were fresh, as if someone had been there recently, waiting. My apartment was on the 5th floor and the elevator did not work. The stairs seemed longer than usual. When I got up there was no one in the stairwell. But the door of my apartment was slightly ajar. Although I definitely remembered that I locked them. The feeling of cold and fear literally paralyzed me. I opened the door, holding the keys in my hand like a pathetic weapon. The apartment was the same as I had left it, except for one thing. My computer was gone. My laptop, phone, and any electronic devices were gone. This was no ordinary robbery. He took away only the things through which I could communicate with the outside world. And another note on the table. Now you're on your own. Now I could no longer rely on the police, on friends, or even on my own apartment. I felt this fog of madness enveloping me more and more. The next night, when I could no longer sleep, I heard a strange sound from the basement of the house. Something like the screeching of metal. My heart was pounding, but something inside me was pushing me to go there. I took the lantern and went down the dark stairs. The basement was always a creepy place, but this time there was something there. In the corner I saw an old chair and my phone was lying on it. But when I got closer, the lantern suddenly went out. I heard soft laughter in the darkness. Only a few seconds, but enough to send a primal terror over me. I quickly returned to my apartment. I had only one choice left, to try to understand what he wanted. This stalker doesn't just act like that. Everything matters. Notes, photos, missing things. After long hours of thinking, I remembered one small but important point. The first note I found under the door said, I know. But what exactly does he know? I started putting all the pieces of this puzzle together. My memory slowly revealed the details I had tried to forget. A few years ago I witnessed an incident. I saw an accident late at night on the freeway. I didn't pay much attention to it and just continued on my way. But it seems that was a mistake. Maybe that stalker has something to do with that event? Did he see me then? Maybe I missed something important and now he wants me to take responsibility for it? Every day I became more and more lost in my thoughts. He continued to appear at the most unexpected moments, whether in the window of a cafe or simply as a shadow on the street. My mind could no longer distinguish reality from fiction. I saw him everywhere. It's not just a game anymore. It is something more. One evening I decided to put everything on the line. I prepared to meet him face to face. When it got dark, I turned off the light in the apartment and sat down to wait. It was quiet. It's too quiet. A few hours later, I heard a light knock on the door. Not a call, just a soft, barely audible knock. I went over and carefully opened it. There, beyond the threshold, there was only darkness. And silence. When I went back inside again, someone was in the room. He stood in the shadows, his face barely illuminated by the faint light of the moon filtering through the curtains. This time he did not hide. His eyes sparkled and I felt a cold dread in my chest. "You're finally ready to face the truth," he whispered.